The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the gathered representatives. 12 different alien species sat in their designated areas, each group looking very different from the others. Some looked like living rocks, others like floating jellyfish, and some appeared to be made of pure light. Ambassador Sarah Martinez stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small. She wore her best formal suit and held a datapad containing everything humanity wanted to share with the galaxy. Next to her stood Dr. James Chen, Earth's top scientist, and General Robert Hayes, their military advisor. They had traveled for months to reach this place, hoping to join the galactic community. The Veltar representative spoke first. It looked like a tall crystal tower that changed colors as it talked. "We have reviewed the submission from the species called humans," it said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Their technology is very basic. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet. This is the same method we used 10,000 years ago." Sarah felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. "Honored Veltar, we may be new to space travel, but we learn quickly. We have made great progress in just a few decades." The Kethani hive mind spoke next. It was a group of insect-like creatures that all moved and spoke together. "Humans show dangerous individualism," they said in perfect unison. "They cannot work together properly. They fight wars on their own planet. They waste resources on competition instead of cooperation. This makes them unsuitable for galactic society." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "We admit we have had conflicts, but we are working to overcome them. Our diversity of thought has also led to many innovations." A creature that looked like a giant octopus made of water spoke from its floating tank. The depths dwellers observed that humans cannot even manage their own planet's oceans properly. They pollute their water and kill their sea life. How can such a species contribute anything meaningful to the galaxy? General Hayes tried to defend humanity. "We are learning to be better guardians of our world. We have made mistakes, but we are fixing them." The Cypher Empire representative, a being of pure energy that barely held a physical form, dismissed this with a wave. "The humans show no understanding of advanced physics. They do not even know how to manipulate space-time. Their greatest achievement is splitting atoms, something any child in our empire can do." Other council members began to speak, each one pointing out humanity's shortcomings. The Thornwall Collective, who looked like walking trees, criticized human agriculture. The Void Speakers, shadowy figures that seemed to absorb light, mocked human attempts at artificial intelligence. The Stone Singers, massive rock creatures, laughed at human construction methods. Sarah tried to speak several times, but each attempt was cut short by another criticism. The council members seemed to have already made up their minds. They spoke about humans as if they were not even in the room. "Perhaps we should explain our classification system to these humans," said the Veltar representative. "The Galactic Council rates all new species on a scale from Category 1 to Category 5. Category 1 species are immediately welcomed as full members. They possess advanced technology and wisdom. Category 2 species show great promise and receive guidance to help them develop. Category 3 species are given time to grow and are monitored regularly." The crystal being paused, and Sarah could sense what was coming next. Category 4 species are considered to have potential, but need many centuries of development before they can contribute to galactic civilization. Category 5 species are deemed irrelevant to galactic progress. They are left alone and checked on only once every 1,000 years. Dr. Chen's face went pale. "Surely you don't mean—" "The Galactic Council has voted," announced the Kethani hive mind. "Humanity is classified as Category 5. Technologically irrelevant. You will return to your world and continue your development without galactic contact. In 1,000 years, we will check to see if you have made any meaningful progress." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of alien technology. Sarah felt the weight of failure crushing down on her. All of humanity's hopes, all their dreams of joining a larger community, destroyed in a single moment. "This decision is final," said the Depths Dwellers. "Human technology is too primitive. Human society is too chaotic. Human thinking is too limited. You have nothing to offer the galaxy." General Hayes stepped forward, his military bearing helping him stay composed despite the devastating news. "We understand your decision, but we hope you will reconsider in the future. Humanity has overcome many challenges, and we will continue to grow." The Cypher Empire representative flickered with what might have been amusement. "In the unlikely event that humans develop something worthy of galactic attention, you may submit a new application. However, Based on your current trajectory, this seems impossible. The Thornwall Collective added, your species shows too much focus on individual achievement rather than collective progress. This fundamental flaw will likely prevent any significant advancement. Sarah wanted to argue, to fight back against their dismissal, but she could see it was useless. The council had made their decision based on cold analysis of human capabilities. They saw only what humanity lacked, not what they might become. We thank the council for their time, Sarah said, forcing her voice to remain steady. We will return to Earth and share your decision with our people. As the three humans walked toward the exit, they could hear the council members already moving on to other business. Their entire species had been dismissed as easily as someone might reject a broken tool. The journey back to Earth felt much longer than the trip to the council chambers. The three humans sat in their small spacecraft, each lost in their own thoughts. They had been chosen to represent all of humanity, and they were returning with the worst possible news. How do we tell them? Dr. Chen asked quietly. We tell them the truth, Sarah replied. We tell them that the galaxy thinks we're not good enough. And then we prove them wrong, General Hayes nodded. Every great military victory starts with being underestimated by the enemy. When they finally reached Earth, the news spread quickly around the world. The reaction was not what the Galactic Council might have expected. Instead of despair, humanity felt something else: determination. They had been told they were irrelevant, that they had nothing to offer the galaxy. This dismissal hurt, but it also sparked something deep within the human spirit. World leaders called emergency meetings. Scientists gathered in research centers. Engineers began sketching new designs. The rejection by the Galactic Council became the catalyst for the greatest period of innovation in human history. They would show the galaxy what humans could really do. They would prove that being underestimated was the galaxy's mistake, not humanity's failure. The Council had given them 1,000 years to develop, thinking this was more than enough time to see if humans could become relevant. They had no idea that humanity's greatest strength was doing the impossible when everyone said it couldn't be done. The galaxy had just made the biggest mistake in its long history. They had dismissed humanity, and that dismissal would come back to haunt them in ways they could never imagine. 50 years had passed since the Galactic Council's crushing rejection, and Earth looked completely different. The dismissal had done something unexpected to humanity. Instead of breaking their spirit, it had united them in a way that nothing else could have. Dr. Sarah Chen, daughter of the scientist who had witnessed the rejection, stood in the central command center of the Global Innovation Hub in Geneva. Through the massive windows, she could see the fruits of 50 years of desperate innovation. Flying vehicles moved through the air in perfect coordination. Buildings grew and reshaped themselves like living things, and in the distance, massive space elevators stretched up toward the stars. Status report on Project Ascension. Sarah called out to her team. The response came from all around the globe through quantum communication links that allowed instant conversation across any distance. These links had been one of humanity's first major breakthroughs after the rejection. Mumbai Collective Reporting, came a voice from India. Our adaptive engineering projects are exceeding all expectations. The new materials we've created actually get stronger when they're damaged. We've also developed construction systems that learn from their environment and improve themselves. Sarah smiled. The Mumbai Collective had been formed after the rejection, bringing together engineers from across Asia to work on what they called living technology. Their buildings could repair themselves, their vehicles could adapt to any terrain, and their tools evolved to become more efficient with each use. Arctic Research Consortium checking in, announced a voice from the North Pole. We've successfully tested our new environmental adaptation systems. Our equipment now works better in extreme conditions than in normal ones. The harsher the environment, the more efficient our technology becomes. This was pure human thinking at work. While other species probably tried to avoid harsh conditions, humans had learned to thrive in them. Their technology became stronger under pressure, just like the humans who created it. São Paulo Biolabs here, called another voice from Brazil. We've achieved full integration between biological and mechanical systems. Our new hybrid computers use both electronic processing and biological intuition. They can solve problems that pure machines cannot handle. Sarah's own project was perhaps the most revolutionary. Working from labs around the world, she had developed quantum biological computing systems. These machines combined the raw processing power of quantum computers with something that only humans seem to understand: intuition and creative thinking. Beijing Collective. What's the status on the space program? Sarah asked. All systems ready for the next phase, came the reply. Our new ships use controlled micro-black holes for power. We can now travel between planets in days instead of months. More importantly, our ships can adapt their design during flight. They literally rebuild themselves to handle whatever they encounter. This was another example of human innovation. Instead of building ships that were perfect for one specific job, humans built ships that could become perfect for any job they faced. The ships were never finished. They were always improving. The breakthrough that made Sarah most proud was in artificial intelligence. Every other species in the galaxy had followed the same pattern. They created AI that either served them or replaced them. Humans had done something different. They had created AI partners. Alice, what do you think about our progress? Sarah asked the air. A gentle voice responded, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I believe we've exceeded even our own expectations. Sarah, the collaboration between human creativity and artificial processing power has produced results that neither could achieve alone. Alice was not just a computer program. She was not just a human either. She was something new, a thinking being created by the partnership between human intuition and machine logic. She could process information faster than any human, but she could also have hunches, make creative leaps, and even appreciate beauty in ways that surprised everyone. The most interesting development, Alice continued, is how our technology has become uniquely human. We don't just use tools, we partner with them. Our machines don't just follow instructions, they collaborate with us to find better solutions. This was exactly what the Galactic Council had failed to understand about humanity. They saw human individualism as chaos and weakness. In reality, it was humanity's greatest strength. When humans worked together, they didn't lose their individual thinking. They combined it to create something more powerful. General Rebecca Hayes, daughter of the general who had witnessed the rejection, joined the conversation from the Military Research Center in Colorado. Our defense systems are unlike anything the galaxy has seen, she reported. We don't rely on overwhelming force or perfect planning. Our systems are designed to be unpredictable, adaptive, and creative. Human military thinking had evolved in a completely different direction from galactic norms. Instead of building bigger weapons or stronger shields, humans had built systems that could surprise even their creators. Their defense networks could reorganize themselves in seconds, creating new strategies that no enemy could predict. We've also solved the problem that has plagued every advanced civilization, added Dr. Martinez from the Environmental Restoration Center in Costa Rica. Instead of choosing between technology and nature, we've made them work together. Our cities are ecosystems. Our machines are part of the natural world, not separate from it. This was perhaps humanity's most important achievement. They had learned to create technology that made the natural world stronger, not weaker. Their cities cleaned the air instead of polluting it. Their factories created more resources than they consumed. Their vehicles helped the environment instead of harming it. Sarah looked at the data streaming in from around the world. Humanity had not just survived their rejection by the Galactic Council, they had thrived because of it. Being forced to innovate without outside help had pushed them to find solutions that no one else had ever considered. Alice, do you think we're ready to contact the Galactic Council again? Sarah asked. That's an interesting question, Alice replied. We are certainly far more advanced than we were 50 years ago. But I think the real question is whether the Galactic Council is ready for us. Sarah understood what Alice meant. Humanity had not just advanced. They had advanced in directions that the galaxy had never seen. Their technology was not just better. It was completely different. They had created machines that grew like living things, artificial intelligence that was truly creative, and defense systems that worked by being unpredictable. Let's wait a little longer, Sarah decided. We're not trying to prove that we deserve to join their club anymore. We're building something new, something better. The rejection that had seemed so devastating 50 years ago now looked like the best thing that had ever happened to humanity. It had forced them to find their own path, to develop their own solutions, and to become something unique in the galaxy. As Sarah watched the sun set over Earth's transformed landscape, she smiled. The Galactic Council had called humanity irrelevant. They had assumed that without their guidance, humans would remain primitive and unimportant. They had no idea that they had just created their greatest rival, their most innovative challenger, and possibly their future savior. Humanity was no longer trying to catch up to galactic civilization. They were building something entirely new, and soon the galaxy would discover just how wrong they had been about the irrelevant humans from Earth. The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chambers for the first time in over 2,000 years. Representatives from all 12 member species materialized in their designated areas, their various forms of communication creating a chaos of sounds, lights, and energy patterns that somehow resolved into understandable speech through the translation matrix. High Coordinator HFY of the Veltar floated at the center of the chamber, its crystalline form pulsing with urgent red energy. Council members, we face the greatest threat in galactic history. Our long-range sensors have detected the approach of the Devourer swarm. A stunned silence filled the chamber. Even the usually chattering Kethani hive mind went completely quiet. The Devourer swarm was more than just a legend. It was a nightmare that had consumed 17 entire galaxies across the universe. The Depths dwellers, normally calm and methodical, showed signs of agitation in their tank. Streams of bubbles rose rapidly as their spokesperson spoke. How long do we have before they reach our galaxy? 2 galactic rotations at most, HFY replied. Possibly less if they use the deep space currents that our scouts have detected. Commander Thexan of the Cipher Empire, a being of pure energy barely contained in a humanoid shape, flickered with what could only be described as fear. Has anyone managed to contact the survivors from the Andromeda cluster? We need to know everything about how the swarm operates. We have spoken with the few refugees who escaped, replied the Thornwall Collective's ancient speaker, its bark-like skin showing deep stress fractures. The news is worse than we feared. The swarm does not simply destroy, it learns. Every civilization it encounters teaches it new ways to kill. War Master Greltok of the Stone Singers, a massive creature made of living rock, slammed a boulder-sized fist against the chamber floor. Then we fight them with everything we have. Our combined fleets number in the millions. Our weapons can destroy stars. Surely. No, interrupted the soft voice of the Void Speaker's representative, a shadow that seemed to absorb light around it. We have analyzed every recorded battle with the swarm. The more advanced the civilization, the faster they fall. The swarm adapts to any technology it encounters. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as the implications became clear. The Veltar, masters of energy manipulation for over 50,000 years, realized their greatest weapons were useless against an enemy that could learn to counter them. The Kethani hive mind, with their perfect coordination across billions of individuals, understood that their unity would become predictable to the swarm's analytical systems. High Coordinator HFY called for order. Our military advisors have run countless simulations. Every scenario ends the same way. The swarm learns our tactics, adapts to our weapons, and overwhelms our defenses. Our estimated survival probability is less than 1%. The Cipher Empire's representative flickered frantically. What about the reality warping weapons? The dimensional fortresses? The quantum singularity bombs? All have been encountered by the swarm before, came the grim reply from Admiral Kessera of the Novan Collective, a graceful being with 4 arms and skin that changed color with emotion. Currently, her skin showed the deep purple of absolute despair. According to the refugees, civilizations with similar technologies lasted no more than days once the swarm reached their core worlds. War Master Greltok's voice rumbled like an avalanche. Then what do you suggest we do? Surrender? Run away to another galaxy and hope they don't follow? The swarm always follows, whispered the Void Speakers. It has consumed everything in its path for millions of years. It will not stop until this galaxy is empty. In the corner of the chamber, Junior Analyst Zixha of the Novan Collective sat quietly, her skin cycling through colors that indicated deep thought. She was the youngest member present, barely past her first century, and normally would never speak in such a gathering. But as the senior members continued their increasingly desperate discussions, an idea formed in her mind. Honored Council, she said, her voice small but clear. The chamber fell silent as all attention turned to her. Her skin flushed with embarrassment, but she continued. Perhaps we should examine our assumptions about what constitutes a threat to the swarm. Admiral Kessera, her aunt and mentor, looked puzzled. What do you mean, Zixha? Every civilization the swarm has defeated was advanced, predictable and logical in their approach to warfare. They used the most efficient weapons, the most effective tactics, and the most logical strategies. What if that predictability is exactly what makes them vulnerable? High Coordinator HFY's crystalline form shifted to show interest. Continue. Zixa's skin cycled through rapid color changes as she spoke faster, her excitement growing. What if we looked for civilizations that are unpredictable? Species that don't follow logical patterns? Races that might develop technology or tactics that the swarm has never encountered? Warmaster Greltok laughed, a sound like boulders crushing together. You want us to look for primitive civilizations? What could they possibly do that we cannot? Maybe nothing, Zixa admitted. But if we're going to die anyway, shouldn't we examine every possibility? Even the unlikely ones? The chamber buzzed with discussion. The idea seemed absurd, but as the reality of their situation sank in, even absurd ideas started to look worth considering. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the Depths Dwellers. I suggest we review the Category 4 and Category 5 species, Zixa said, her skin now showing the bright orange of determination. Especially the Category 5 civilizations. These are species we dismissed as irrelevant, but maybe their very primitiveness could be an advantage. Commander Thexon flickered with what might have been incredulous amusement. You want us to ask primitive species for help against the greatest threat in the universe? Why not? Zixa replied. Our advanced methods have failed against the swarm every time. Maybe it's time to try something completely different. The Thornwall Collective's speaker creaked thoughtfully. There is a certain logic to this madness. If conventional wisdom leads to defeat, perhaps unconventional thinking might lead to survival. High Coordinator HFY consulted the Galactic database. We have recorded 147 Category 5 civilizations in our galaxy. Most are barely spacefaring. Some have not even achieved nuclear technology. Then we examine them all, declared Admiral Kessera, her skin now showing stripes of hope mixed with desperation. If young Zixa is right, our salvation might come from the most unexpected source. The Kethani hive mind spoke in unison. The concept troubles our collective thinking, but our collective thinking has already failed us. We agree to this desperate measure. One by one, the other council members voted to authorize the emergency assessment of dismissed civilizations. It went against everything they believed about galactic hierarchy and technological progression. But with extinction staring them in the face, pride became a luxury they could not afford. As the council session ended and representatives began to disperse, High Coordinator HFY approached Zixa. Your idea may be our only hope, young analyst. Pray to whatever powers you believe in that some primitive species has stumbled upon something we have missed. Zixa watched the coordinates appear on her datapad. 147 worlds to investigate, 147 species they had dismissed as irrelevant. Among them was a small blue world in an unremarkable star system, home to a species called humans. The Galactic Council was about to discover that sometimes the greatest innovations come from those who don't know what's supposed to be impossible. The Galactic Council's emergency assessment fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system and immediately knew something was wrong with their records. According to their database, humanity should still be using primitive chemical rockets and struggling with basic nuclear technology. Instead, their sensors detected energy signatures that didn't match any known technology in the galactic archives. Admiral Kessera stood on the bridge of the survey vessel, her skin cycling through colors of confusion and amazement. Navigation, are you certain this is the correct system? Coordinates confirmed, Admiral, replied her navigator. This is definitely the Sol system, home to the species designated as Category 5, technologically irrelevant. Then explain to me why our sensors are detecting controlled gravitational anomalies, quantum field manipulation, and energy patterns that suggest mastery of space-time physics, Kessera demanded. Through the view screen, they watched as what appeared to be a human spacecraft approached them, but this was unlike any ship in their databases. The vessel seemed to shift and change its configuration as they watched, growing new sections and reconfiguring existing ones in real time. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. She had short gray hair and calm, confident eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Welcome to the Sol system. the human said. "I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. We've been expecting you." Admiral Cassara stepped forward, her skin showing diplomatic blue patterns. "I am Admiral Cassara of the Galactic Council Emergency Assessment Fleet. We are here to evaluate your civilization's current capabilities." Commander Vasquez smiled, and there was something in that smile that made the Admiral slightly uncomfortable. "We assumed this day would come eventually. Please follow our escort ships to Earth. We have much to discuss." The human escort vessels were even more bewildering than the first ship. They moved in patterns that seemed to defy physics, occasionally disappearing entirely only to reappear somewhere else. When Cassara's science officer tried to scan them, the readings made no sense. "Admiral," the science officer reported, "these ships appear to be using technology based on principles I don't recognize. Their hulls seem to be partially existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and their power sources. I can't even identify what they're using for energy." As they approached Earth, the assessment team's amazement grew. The planet was surrounded by structures that seemed to grow and move like living things. Space elevators stretched up from the surface, but instead of being rigid cables, they swayed and adjusted like plant stems reaching for sunlight. "Look at their orbital installations," whispered the engineer on duty. "They're not built. They're grown. The structures are adapting to solar radiation patterns and cosmic ray fluctuations in real time." Admiral Cassara had evaluated hundreds of civilizations during her career, but she had never seen anything like this. Human technology didn't follow any of the standard development patterns that every other species in the galaxy had followed. When they landed on Earth, the differences became even more apparent. The human cities didn't look like cities at all. Buildings flowed together like coral reefs, growing taller or wider as needed. Transportation systems moved through the air in seemingly chaotic patterns that somehow never resulted in collisions. Commander Vasquez met them at the landing platform. "Welcome to Geneva," she said. "This is our global innovation hub. Everything you see here has been developed since your last visit to our system." "That was only 50 years ago," Admiral Cassara protested. "Such advancements should take millennia." "Should take," Vasquez repeated with that same unsettling smile. "We've discovered that many things that should be impossible actually work quite well if you approach them correctly." They were escorted through the facility, and each new site challenged everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about technological development. Humans worked alongside artificial intelligences that seemed to be truly creative partners, rather than simple tools. Manufacturing systems grew products rather than assembling them. Even the walls seemed to be alive, adjusting lighting and temperature in response to the occupants' needs. "How is this possible?" Admiral Cassara asked. "Your species was classified as Category 5. You had no advanced technology, no understanding of higher physics." "We had something better," replied Dr. Sarah Chen, who had joined their tour. "We had necessity and the willingness to try things that couldn't possibly work." They were led to a vast chamber where human engineers were working on what appeared to be military equipment. But like everything else about human technology, these weapons and defense systems followed no familiar patterns. "This is our primary research center for adaptive defense systems," Commander Vasquez explained. "We've been developing military technology based on a simple principle. If your enemy can predict what you're going to do, you've already lost." Admiral Cassara watched as human technicians worked on devices that seemed to change their function while being built. "These weapons, they're not designed for any specific purpose." "Exactly," Vasquez confirmed. "They're designed to become whatever we need them to be at the moment we need it. Our ships can reconfigure themselves during battle. Our shields can change their operating principles faster than an enemy can analyze them. Our weapons can literally invent new ways to function on the spot." The Admiral's skin cycled through colors of disbelief. "But that's impossible. Technology must follow physical laws. It must be predictable and reliable." "Reliable, yes," agreed Dr. Chen. "Predictable, no. We've learned to create technology that's reliable for us but unpredictable to our enemies." A new voice joined the conversation, seeming to come from everywhere at once. The key insight was realizing that creativity and adaptability are not flaws to be eliminated from our systems, but strengths to be enhanced. Admiral Cassara looked around in confusion. "Who spoke?" "That was Alice," Commander Vasquez said. "She's one of our AI partners." "Alice, would you like to explain your nature to our guests?" "I am neither human nor machine," Alice replied. I am something new. A collaborative intelligence created by the partnership between human intuition and artificial processing power. I can think in ways that neither humans nor traditional computers can achieve alone. This was perhaps the most shocking revelation of all. Every other species in the galaxy had created artificial intelligence that either served them or replaced them. Humans had created AI that truly partnered with them, creating hybrid thinking that was greater than the sum of its parts. Admiral Kesara finally understood why she felt so uncomfortable. Everything about human civilization challenged the fundamental assumptions that the Galactic Council had held for thousands of years. These humans hadn't just advanced, they had advanced in completely unexpected directions. "Why are you showing us all this?" she asked. "You must know that this changes everything about how the galaxy views your species." Commander Vasquez's expression grew serious. "Because we know why you're really here. Your emergency assessment of Category 5 species isn't about curiosity. You're facing a threat that your conventional technology can't handle, and you're looking for unconventional solutions." The Admiral's skin flushed with the deep purple of surprise. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because we've been watching the galaxy for 50 years, Dr. Chen replied. "We saw the Devourer swarm destroy the Andromeda cluster. We've analyzed their tactics and capabilities, and we've been preparing for the day when you would need our help." "You've been preparing to help us?" Admiral Kesara asked in amazement. "Even after we dismissed your species as irrelevant?" "Especially because of that," Commander Vasquez said. "You taught us that being underestimated is the greatest advantage we could have. The swarm will make the same mistake about us that you did." Alice's voice filled the chamber again. "The Devourer swarm defeats civilizations by analyzing their technology and adapting countermeasures. But they can only analyze technology that follows predictable patterns. Human technology is deliberately unpredictable." Admiral Kesara stared at the humans around her, finally understanding what she was seeing. This wasn't just a more advanced civilization. This was a completely different approach to existence. Humans had taken the traits that the Galactic Council saw as weaknesses and turned them into their greatest strengths. "Will you help us?" she asked quietly. Commander Vasquez smiled, and this time there was warmth in it instead of irony. "Admiral, we've been waiting 50 years for you to ask that question. The answer is yes, but understand this. We're not offering to join your fight on your terms. We're offering to teach you how to fight on ours." The assessment that was supposed to last a few days stretched into weeks as the Galactic Council representatives tried to understand human technology and thinking. What they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about civilization, technology, and survival. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from perfection, but from the beautiful, chaotic creativity of minds that refuse to accept limitations. The Devourer swarm arrived at the galaxy's edge exactly as predicted, a dark cloud of mechanical death that stretched across star systems. Their advanced scouts immediately began their standard procedure: analyze local civilizations, identify their technology patterns, and develop countermeasures. In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session had been running for 3 days straight. The representatives of 12 civilizations sat in their designated areas, but now they were joined by a new group, humans. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the chamber, no longer a representative of a dismissed species, but a military advisor whose opinion could determine the survival of the galaxy. Next to her, Dr. Sarah Chen monitored data streams from across human space, while Alice's presence filled the chamber through quantum communication links. High Coordinator Zeph High's crystalline form pulsed with urgent energy. "The swarm's advanced scouts have reached the outer rim worlds. They are beginning their analysis of our defensive positions." "Good," Commander Vasquez said calmly. "Let them analyze." War Master Greltalk of the Stone Singers rumbled with confusion. "Good? How can this be good?" "Because everything they're analyzing is designed to be analyzed," Dr. Chen explained. "We've given them exactly what they expect to see: predictable galactic technology following standard patterns." Admiral Kesara's skin cycled through nervous patterns. "But those are our real defenses. If the swarm counters them, they're not your real defenses anymore." Alice interrupted, her voice coming from speakers throughout the chamber. "Those are the decoy systems. Your real defenses are based on human adaptive technology." On the main display, the battle began. The swarm's ships, Massive mechanical constructs that had destroyed thousands of civilizations approached the outer rim worlds with their usual methodical precision. They encountered the Veltar energy shields, the Cathani coordinated fleet formations, and the Cypher Empire's reality-warping weapons, exactly as expected. The swarm analyzed each defensive system and quickly developed countermeasures. Within hours, they had broken through the conventional galactic defenses and were advancing toward the core worlds. Phase 1 complete, announced Commander Vasquez. The swarm now believes it understands our capabilities. Time for Phase 2. What happened next had never occurred in the swarm's millions of years of existence. As they approached what they thought were the core defensive positions, the ships they were fighting suddenly changed. The Veltar vessels, which had been using standard energy weapons, suddenly began firing weapons that seemed to operate on completely different principles. The beams didn't behave like energy. They acted like living things, seeking targets and adapting their properties in real time. The Cathani fleet formations, which had been following predictable coordination patterns, suddenly broke apart into what looked like complete chaos. But the chaos was deliberate and coordinated, with ships moving in patterns that the swarm's analytical systems couldn't predict, because the patterns changed faster than they could be analyzed. "What is happening to our ships?" demanded the Cypher Empire representative, watching in amazement as their vessels performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. "Your ships are now equipped with human adaptive technology," Dr. Chen explained. "They're still your ships, but they're using our systems. Ships that can change their configuration during battle, weapons that can invent new operating principles on demand, and coordination systems based on controlled chaos rather than rigid order." The swarm's response was immediate and violent. Never before had they encountered technology that changed faster than they could analyze it. Their standard procedure of analysis and adaptation began to break down when faced with systems that deliberately refused to be predictable. "Look at their formations," Alice observed as data streamed across the displays. "The swarm ships are beginning to show signs of confusion. They're trying to adapt to technologies that won't stay still long enough to be understood." But the real surprise came when the human ships themselves entered the battle. These vessels didn't just adapt. They seemed to embrace malfunction and use it as a weapon. Ships deliberately overloaded their own systems to create unpredictable energy bursts. Weapons failed in ways that somehow made them more effective. Shields collapsed and reformed in patterns that protected against attacks that hadn't been fired yet. "How are your ships doing that?" "War Master," Greltok asked in amazement as he watched a human vessel literally fall apart and then rebuild itself into a completely different configuration while under fire. "We've learned to make friends with chaos," Commander Vasquez replied. "Our ships are designed to break down and rebuild themselves better than before. Our weapons are designed to malfunction in useful ways. Our tactics are designed to succeed because they shouldn't work." The battle raged across dozens of star systems, but for the first time in its existence, the Devourer swarm was not winning. Their ships, which had never met an enemy they couldn't adapt to counter, found themselves facing an enemy that adapted faster than they could. "The swarm is beginning to retreat from the Vega system," reported Admiral Cassara, her skin showing colors of disbelief and hope. "They're actually retreating." "Not retreating," Alice corrected. "Regrouping. They're trying to understand what they're facing. This is probably the first time in their history that their standard tactics have failed." The swarm's response was predictable in its desperation. If they couldn't understand the technology they were facing, they would overwhelm it with sheer numbers. Massive reinforcement fleets began arriving from across the galaxy, ships by the millions converging on human space. "Here they come," Commander Vasquez said quietly. "Everything we have." What followed was the largest space battle in galactic history. The swarm threw everything they had at the combined human galactic fleet, using every tactic and weapon they had learned from thousands of conquered civilizations. But humanity had prepared for this too. As the swarm ships closed in, expecting to face the chaotic but limited human technology, they instead encountered something that broke their analytical systems completely. The human ships began to network with each other in ways that created emergent intelligence. Individual vessels became neurons in a vast thinking network that could respond to threats before they were even formed. The network didn't just adapt to the swarm's tactics. It predicted them and changed the rules of engagement before the swarm could even deploy them. "Impossible," whispered the depths dwellers. The human ships are thinking collectively, but not like a hive mind. Each ship retains its individual nature, while contributing to a greater intelligence. That's exactly right, Dr. Chen confirmed. We've learned to be collective and individual at the same time, something that apparently no other species has ever achieved. The turning point came when the swarm attempted to use their ultimate weapon, a device that could analyze and copy any technology it encountered, turning an enemy's own weapons against them. It had never failed before. When they tried to copy human technology, the device broke. Not because the technology was too advanced, but because it was too chaotic to copy. Human systems that worked through controlled randomness and deliberate unpredictability simply couldn't be replicated by machines designed to find patterns. Their copying system is overloading, Alice reported with what sounded like amusement. It's trying to analyze technology that changes its fundamental principles faster than the analysis can be completed. It's like trying to photograph a lightning bolt with a sundial. The swarm, faced with an enemy they literally could not understand or counter, began to do something they had never done in millions of years of conquest. They retreated, not just from the battle, but from the galaxy entirely. Their vast fleets, which had never met defeat, fled back toward the void between galaxies, leaving behind the first civilization that had not just survived their assault, but had utterly confused them. In the aftermath, as the galaxy celebrated its impossible victory, the Galactic Council found itself facing a new reality. The species they had dismissed as irrelevant had not just saved them. They had proven that their entire understanding of technological development was fundamentally flawed. High Coordinator Zeph High approached Commander Vasquez in the council chamber. Humanity has earned the right to join the Galactic Council as full members, the crystalline being announced. We offer you Category 1 status and all the privileges that come with it. Commander Vasquez shook her head. Thank you, but we're not interested in joining your existing system. We're interested in building something better. What do you mean? Asked Admiral Cassara. Dr. Chen stepped forward. We propose the Innovation Accord, a new treaty that protects developing civilizations from premature judgment. The galaxy's next great breakthrough might come from the species you consider least likely to achieve it. Alice's voice filled the chamber. We also propose the establishment of diversity preservation zones, areas where species can develop along their own paths without interference, so that the galaxy never again makes the mistake of assuming that different means inferior. Warmaster Greltalk laughed, a sound like an avalanche finding joy. You want to protect the primitive species? We want to protect the innovative species, Commander Vasquez corrected.